Welcome everyone to the final of 3 timeline theory / discussion videos for Breath of the Wild that I'm releasing this week. The past 2 days I've put out videos talking about the possible placements of Breath of the Wild in the Downfall and Child timelines respectively. However, today we're talking about the possibility of Breath of the Wild taking place in the adult timeline. One interesting theory I've heard is that this, the story at the start of the Wind Waker telling of an evil creeping from the depths, is actually the story of the Calamity Ganon, and that Breath of the Wild tells the story of Hyrule before the goddesses flooded it. However, there are quite a few issues with that theory, but let's not dive into them here. The other place people have been talking about Breath of the Wild in the adult timeline is at the very end, eons after Wind Waker, Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. In Spirit Tracks, many of the characters of the previous games have sailed away and found a new land to call home. But what happened to the land of Hyrule beneath the waves years and years later? Well, that's where we're going to focus on in today's video. Long after people sailed on the Great Sea, long after a hero clad in green conducted the very winds that blew across the land, over an immense period of time, the sea receded and the old land of Hyrule was reclaimed by those living on the mountaintops that peered out of the oceans. For this reason, I'm calling this theory Adult's Reclamation, as the people of the Great Sea have ventured back down into the now dry Hyrule and reclaimed the land which was once their ancestors' home. Hyrule prospered, towns and villages rose up, and rumours of hidden technology beneath the land began to circulate. Ganondorf was slain at the end of the Wind Waker, but what of the curse? This gives birth to a raw, malice-filled evil that swarms across the land for the first time in 100 years, a bodiless evil known as the Calamity Ganon, laid waste to this reclaimed kingdom of Hyrule, and this is where we lead into the story of Breath of the Wild. The biggest reasons I've seen people say this is the placement is because of the appearances by the Rito and the Koroks in Breath of the Wild. Although, I very well believe that these races could exist in other timelines. They've also pointed out what seem like wrecks of ships, masts, and old relics reclaimed by nature, which could have happened at the bottom of the Great Sea. But other than that, this theory personally doesn't hold a lot of power. We've heard from the developers that this Hyrule that we see in Breath of the Wild is one attacked by Ganon many times. While Ganon didn't make an appearance in the Wind Waker, he was only in his human form Ganondorf, which makes me wonder who or what this is depicted in the intro. But that may very well be a theory for another time. One big point fans of this timeline placement have hung on to is this item, a material that we see being picked up in the gameplay footage called rock salt. The description reads, crystallized salt from an ancient sea commonly used to season meals. And it's that wording of ancient sea that makes people think we are playing on the lands of Hyrule covered by the Great Sea in the Wind Waker. However, it could easily just suggest that in ancient times, more of the surrounding ocean was inland and deposited its salt all over the land. But hey, what about the way Ganon looks in the intro to the Wind Waker? I said that's a theory for another time though. So what do you all think? I feel like a lot of these ideas and reasons why it could take place at this point in the timeline are actually arguments for and against, all kind of wound into one. So that's why I'm going to end this video here, and let you guys kind of speculate and think about this a little bit more. We're getting ever closer to the release of Breath of the Wild, and in no time we'll all know where this game sits in the timeline. But it's always fun to do videos like this, and also discuss below what other people think. Thank you all for watching, and I am so excited to find out more about Breath of the Wild on March 3rd. I hope you've enjoyed this trilogy of theory videos, which I've tried to bring up points for and against each theory, as personally, I don't believe the timeline placement in Breath of the Wild is any of these, and if I'd have to choose, I'd probably say it'd be at the start or the end of the Downfall timeline, and I'm leaning more towards the end of the Downfall timeline at this point. Thank you all for watching, and check back tomorrow for a one-off theory about a very special thing we've seen in Breath of the Wild. See you then.